how are you? Big day in Seattle sports. Our Storm, four-time world champs. How are you?
I'm feeling pretty doggone proud of the ladies, man. Okay. If there's a leader in this city that shows the guy teams how to do it right, it's the winner of the WNBA championship, our own Seattle Storm, and the MVP in particular, Breanna Stewart. But of course, coming up on 40 years old, the ageless wonder, and that would be Sue Bird. Is she
Oh,
not
yeah.
phenomenal?
She is absolutely phenomenal. 17 years in this league, her fourth title. She set a finals record last night with 16 assists. Boy, I can't say
couldn't
enough
believe
about
how
her.
they pulled away, by the way. I could not believe in the second half how they pulled away from Vegas.
Oh, they destroyed Vegas. The Seattle Storm, man, swept in there, and Hurricane Breanna just wiped the floor with them. I mean, it wasn't even close. It was like a clinic that I haven't seen in the finals, I don't think, ever.
Yeah, they played great fundamental basketball. And hats off to Coach Kloppenberg, whose brother, of course, was an assistant coach with Lenny Wilkins. Way back in the day, of course, we're dating ourselves. Please save our Sonics. Bring our Sonics back. There's a shameless plug for our basketball team that is still missing in action. But no, that was a great season for the Seattle Storm, man.
Oh, just hats off. You know, this is the first sports dynasty Seattle can lay claim to, seriously.
Yeah.
And Breanna Stewart, Jewell Loyd, Alicia Clark, and Tasha Howard. I mean, they all just stepped up, led by the veteran Sue Bird. I couldn't be happier for them. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have a parade because of, what's going on. But, boy, hats off to the Storm. I couldn't be more proud, and I know this city is proud. They're the queens of the wobble. The queens of the wobble.
Yes, they are, unequivocally. And like I said, a sweep. And do you know that in the 4 championships that they have won, all have been sweeps? Okay.
They have not lost in a finals game.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Well, it's focused and incredibly amazing, very basic, great basketball. Okay. And like you said, a clinic was taught to the Las Vegas Aces, who were the number 1 seed, by the way. They beat us twice in the regular season.
Oh, it just shows you that they weren't paying attention, obviously, because I don't know how you sweep and put a beat down on a number 1 seed like the Storm did, but that's going in the history books, and proud to say they're from the beautiful city of Seattle. So there you go.
We're number 1. Our ladies are number 1.
You know what? We got a lot of number 1s going on right now. In fact, switching topics, let's go to the number 1 quarterback in the universe.
Come on, man.
Russell Wilson and our 4-0 Seahawks. Boy, I'll tell you what, if there was ever an antidote for the depression that this pandemic and all this crazy crap going on is, it is our Seahawks right now. Wow, what can you say about them, Rod?
Well, let me tell you what's the most fun. When the game starts at 10 a.m., and as we both know, this could be a recipe for a disastrous rest of your Sunday because the game starts so early.
Yeah.
Okay, but to see them go down there in what was, as we both know, typical Florida conditions between heat and humidity, and I worried about guys cramping up. But no, I guess the most frustrating thing was to get down there twice like we did and come away with no points. And we really should have blown them out. But the bend but not break defense, they kept everything in front of them. The magician, as you call him, Houdini, we texted back and forth during the game. We were losing our minds, man, texting back and forth during the game.
It was.
Crazy.
And, this is the first, if I'm not mistaken, we've lost the last 3 or 4 times we've gone down to Miami. It's always been a trap game for us because, like you said, 10 a.m. on our body clocks and usually just hot and humid as hell. They run out of gas, and that's the one thing we were concerned about is they were keeping that game a little too close, and we wanted to get a comfortable lead in case we started wilting in the fourth quarter. But you know what? This team is not wilting. And
how'd you like that 2-minute drill done in 21 seconds before halftime? Was that not amazing?
It was so amazing. Okay. And here's the interesting
thing.
Go ahead.
If there's anything, Jeff Young, that should be the film clip right now for Russell Wilson at this stage in the season, 4 games into it. So we're a quarter of the way there. Being the front runner for the MVP, run the last 21 seconds of the first half of that Seahawks-Miami Dolphins game. And what happened? With us starting deep in our own territory. And by the way, Russell Wilson calling his own plays because the headset went out.
Which has happened over the years in Miami with not just us, but other teams. Somehow the headsets mysteriously go out when the Dolphins need a comeback. But you know what? That just showed us all, hey, you know what? Yeah, we're letting Russ cook this year. But I think we go ahead and let him coach, too, because that was one hell of a drive he called.
Well, you know what? Speaking of coach, I have this weird fantasy, maybe, and perhaps for some of the viewers of Lockdown Sports, you might want to disagree with me on this. But I have this fantasy that the Atlanta Falcons tired of Dan Quinn and unceremoniously terminate his contract, which the Seahawks quickly pick up as they either demote or terminate the contract of one Ken Norton Jr. And let's see what Dan Quinn can do with that defense. This is the same Dan Quinn that coached our defense when it was great. So and there's a lot of criticism about how we play defense. Sunday, you said you had some stats, man. Is there some stats that are going to make us a little bit more optimistic about our defense?
Absolutely. And, I went back and forth. I went back and forth on Facebook with a few fans, who were just nothing.
You and Kermit Appeal were going back and forth.
You mean Kermit were talking about it, and I was just thinking, it's so typical of Seattle fans to find all the negatives in a 4-0 team.
Come on, man.
Yeah, but man. They were out there. And here's the fact of the matter. We are not the worst defense in the NFL. We're 22nd. There are 10 defenses worse than us. But here's the fact of the matter is, in this COVID season of the NFL, there are so many quarterbacks. 10 quarterbacks went over 300 yards passing this last weekend. Defenses are giving up an enormous amount of plays, and here is why. With no expanded training camp, with no preseason, the hardest group of players that needs that repetition is the defense, the defensive backfield. The offenses are on, they're working out, but, defenses can't work out like offenses can. Russell can get together with his receivers. They can work on the timing. They can do all this stuff. But the defenses, it's all reaction. So what's happening? You're getting just a ton of knee injuries and groin pulls and hammies from defensive players because it's a reaction position. They have to make cuts, violent angle movements. But we've been improving. This game we played, I thought, showed a great improvement in the defense. But people want to talk about, we're never going to win with a defense this bad. Let me just throw a couple stats up. Some of our viewers might not be aware of this. We've had, we're like near the bottom in sacks, okay? I think we've got 6 sacks on the season. And that's something we dealt with last year. But here's something people might not know. We've got 23 quarterback knockdowns, which is number 1 in the NFL right now. 23. Wow. Most in the NFL. And our 37 pressures heading into week 4 is second in the NFL. Add to that, we're in the top 5 in takeaways and turnovers and interceptions. We actually, I think, we might be second in the league in interceptions. So when you add all of those ingredients together, we're going to be all right. The defense is going to get better as we get deeper into the season. But right now, there's no need to panic, especially when we've got an offense as high-powered as the one we're looking at. Incidentally, more records fell for Russ. Most touchdown passes in the first 4 games in NFL history. He tied Peyton Manning, the great Peyton, 16. Nobody's come close. He leads the NFL with a 75.2% completion percentage, and of course leads the league in passer rating at 136.7. Boy, I'll tell you what, how lucky are we to have Russell Wilson, the magician, the king.
Come on, man.
Hey, most loyal fans, did you check out the number of 12s that made the trip down there and sat in that swamp cooler and were there to cheer number 3 when he came off the field?
It was awesome.
It really was awesome. And somebody was chanting MVP. Very interesting, man, to see how we travel as a fan base.
It's incredible. Okay. COVID and everything, right?
Hey, man, they came in with their Seahawk face mask on, and they made some noise, man.
They really did.
No,
Real quick, though, while we're handing out the awards and record setters, the monster DK Metcalf, he's got an NFL best 403 receiving yards with a ridiculous 25.2 yards per reception.
I know.
Wow. I mean, who's going to stop us? And here's an interesting little thing. Colin Cowherd on his show yesterday had a real interesting take. He said Russell Wilson is hands down the best quarterback in the NFL right now. Nobody comes close. And he went on to explain. He said, yeah, Patrick Mahomes, everybody's on the Mahomes bandwagon. He's flashy. Yeah. But here's how you know that Russell is the best. Bill Belichick can't beat Russell Wilson. Belichick is 1-6 against Russell Wilson. Belichick knows how to beat Mahomes. You watched that game the other on Sunday when the Patriots played the Chiefs. They were without Cam and stuff. But that defense shut down Mahomes. I think he only had 2 touchdowns. They got a pick 6, but he had him contained. He has no answer for Russell Wilson, and I thought that was really interesting because of all the coaches in the NFL, Belichick knows how to take care of everybody, but he has no answer for Russell Wilson. I thought that was just interesting.
That is a very interesting stat, man. 1-6 against Russell Wilson.
Isn't that something?
The great. That is amazing. So the props that he was handing out before we beat them were not just him bloviating, to quote a Stephen A. Smith. Okay.
No.
He was serious. He was serious in giving his props. And by the way, while we giving our props, Jeff Young, we must give a shout out to our man, the head of the Adams family, MIA right now, but posted during the game. He was very involved in the game action, Jeff Young, as you know, and he posted a picture which he later deleted.
Then he reposted it after he cleaned that blunt off the coffee table. I saw that. I said, man, that guy has got to be loving life. He's up here in Washington State, where, of course, we've got legalized marijuana. But after seeing that photo, I said, hey, the Adams family, maybe it's the LOB, Legion of Bomb.
That's right.
Legion of Bud.
Hey, man, I don't know. He's suffering from a groin pull, and as we both know, it's all about relaxing his muscles. We want this brother back sooner than later, but we don't want him to rush back. Groin injury is a very tricky thing. By the way, let me just add, as you know, Snacks Harrison is now in the fold. We signed him to the practice squad, so we have another big run stopper. Whether or not that's going to help us to get some more pressure on the quarterback, I'm not sure. But the stats that you threw out earlier are fascinating from the standpoint that I would have never guessed that if nothing else, we got quarterbacks hurt, whatever. Those are some very telling statistics.
Well, and that's one reason we're 4-0. But let's give props to one of the remaining LOBs, KJ Wright. What a great game he had. Boy, he's been playing, kind of, average in the first few games. But boy, he reminded us of what kind of a player he is. Boy, he was putting some hits on some people, and he had 3 interceptions in his hands that got away from him. He had a hell of a day.
Yeah, he did. And by the way, your boy Alton Robinson, big stop. Okay, Alton Robinson, LJ Collier.
They're stepping up. Again, I'm telling you.
They're stepping it up. So we're gonna have to wait and see exactly when the defense is gonna gel and really come together. I got a feeling part of it is when Jamal Adams comes back and how they're gonna use him. But let's just say, as long as he's relaxing and he's got a blunt, and hopefully maybe Josh Gordon is at his crib and just waiting on the phone to ring, because that's
never know. Yes, it is, and let's give a shout out to Shaquille Griffith, who, again, along with KJ, rebounded in this game and had a stellar performance. Couple of picks, knocked down that touchdown pass. He played a solid game. I'll tell you what, I feel really good about where this team is going. And when you're 4-0 to finish out the early part of the season, I mean, that's the most critical, because every team gets better as you go deeper. For us to give ourselves this kind of cushion, and we're 2 games up on the Niners, It's a good day in the Emerald City, my friend. We've had some serious COVID outbreaks in the last week in the NFL. The Tennessee Titans, a total of 20 people, players and staff associated, have tested positive. And I got to tell you, I'm furious. So is the NFL. I heard today that there is possibility that sanctions could come down, including forfeiting games, because these clowns.
What?
Yes, listen to this. These clowns seriously broke protocol. So not only did they go to this fundraiser where they were seen without masks, and then a bunch of them have been fined, but so they closed the facility, right? Because they're all infected. Everybody goes home. They can't practice. The facility's obviously infected. It was reported today that 15 of these players met in private on a field and worked out together outside of the protocol, which is just a major breach. Ryan Tannehill defended himself by saying, hey, man, I need to get the practice reps in. Well, you know what? These clowns, hey, if they, that might be the only way to save this situation is to have teams forfeit games rather than stall out the schedule. You know, they're already going to play. They're already going to play that Green Bay. Who is it? The Vikings. Was it the Green? What that game was postponed till November.
Yeah, let me tell you who really ended up getting the turd on the stick, and that's the Steelers. Okay.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh yeah, that's the team. That's the team that's who they're going to play later in November.
Yeah. No, the Steelers really got the short end of the stick on this, and they've already been complaining about it.
Yep, and so I think one solution is why punish these teams that are following the rules by postponing games, forfeit. I mean, this is a whole new situation we're dealing with this COVID. And incidentally, the big news today, Stephon Gilmore, former defensive player of the year last year for the Patriots, came down with COVID. Okay, so he's quarantining. But guess what? They've also got footage of him and Patrick Mahomes hugging each other after the game on Sunday. Mahomes is now quarantined in a separate bedroom because his wife's pregnant. He's already tested negative for 2 tests, but we all know that you can test negative for 5 days and then suddenly test positive if you've been exposed. So, wow, real threat there. Patrick Mahomes comes down with COVID. We got a real situation in the NFL. But I just thought this was a really nice story, and probably a good way to end this episode is that Russell Westbrook, upon checking out of the bubble, upon being eliminated in the playoffs, left the housekeeping staff an $8,000 tip.
That is amazing. And let me tell you the backstory on that. Jeff Young, Westbrook's associates did about $12,000 worth of damage to the room. So they figured that 8 man.